Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Monday night, a little bit earlier, and that is because I believe, and Trev is not the one that told me this, but Trev's coming back and this week, so he'll be here for the weekend and everything. So that's good. So we're getting it out of the way tonight so we can get on the road and travel and head this way this week.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I told you I was coming home for Memorial Day weekend. So
I might have. I forgot. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I got some customers to see tomorrow, then get on the road Wednesday, be back, Wednesday night sometime. And then Thursday to Tuesday, I think I'll be back, play some golf, and would see everybody. So looking forward to it.
No, it should be good. I was with Cody tonight. So, so he's getting the room ready for you, Trev, and ready for an exciting long weekend.
Yeah, there we go. No, it should be fun. Hopefully the rain holds off. I know you guys, I think you're getting some today, tomorrow. Hopefully this weekend it's nice enough to golf. I mean, I see it's maybe going to be in the 60s this weekend, it looks like.
Yeah, it's not as good as it's been. Today it's actually, if something would happen right now, we are in a thunderstorm right now. There's thunder and lightning outside and everything. So if for some reason that I'm gone, that's probably why. I lost the internet, I lost power or something, but we need the rain. It's been super dry here and super warm. This is more normal, but it was chilly today. We went up and played a practice round for our regional final, which is on Wednesday. Went up to Copper Creek and Pleasant Hill. It was not raining up there, but it was cold and windy. But here it was cold, windy, and rain most of the day here in Ottumwa. So, and then tomorrow is supposed to be more of the same, and then it's kind of supposed to be hit or miss all week and not super warm.
So before we get started on our list of topics, how's what's your team looking like for golf? And then also Zach posted again. Do you know when and where he's playing next, his team?
Yeah. So, my team we're better this year. We probably, not going to get to the state tournament. One of my girls would have to play a superb round. We're not going to get there as a team. I got a couple girls that, if they play their best career round and some things kind of go haywire, they could get in individually. We went up there today, and for being wet and windy and cold, the greens are super fast still. We were right there. All right.
You there? Morgan might have blown away from the storm. Rest in peace, Morgan. You there?
All right, I might be back. I told you that might happen. I'm going to try to get Trevor back here. We're going to keep going here. But, yeah, my golf team is above average, but it's going to take a lot. And our friend Zach Tremmel did qualify for the state tournament today with his boys team on back at my home course where I grew up playing Crestwood Hills in Anita, Iowa. I think it was a three-way tie, and his team was one of the ones that go on. And he's going to play next week in Waterloo for a chance to win a state title for him. And I think they have a chance. You never know. It's a 2-day tournament, which is not normal for high school golf, but it does, it gets, if he's got a couple kids that can play really well, one of them being his son, Jordan Tremmel, that plays really high. And I think he could finish very close to the top there. We're trying to get Trevor back here. I just sent him another link. Our StreamYard is going there, but yeah, and it's been crazy. We haven't had any weather issues really all year for golf, and then we get to the last week of the season, and like I said, the weather wasn't great today. It doesn't look great tomorrow. It doesn't look great Wednesday, and kind of cool throughout. But is what it is. That's why we do practice and stuff in early season, and like I talked to the girls today about it. It's why we buy them rain gear, and it's why we have that equipment and the nice stuff that we do have, and we're very lucky for that. We have some great people that support us at Atomo Golf, able to make that happen for the girls. So hopefully get Trevor back here. Our topics today are going to be Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark in the Fever Sky game, then Final Four in the NBA, and then Scottie wins, and then Brock Purdy getting his big contract that we talked about.
You there?
Trev, I told you it's going to happen. I
I
called it before it even happened.
I think your internet's cutting out pretty good. I lost you there for a bit, so I left. But looks like you kept it going, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so,
I was gone, too. I came back. So I think there was a little – I don't think it was me. It was my internet, and I think it could be an issue tonight, and that's okay. We'll keep going. But when I came back on, it was still going. So we had a minute or two of dead air, but it is what it is. That'll be okay. I did kind of finish my golf talk, and then Zach is going on to the state tournament with his boys team today. They're going on, and I think they have a chance to finish relatively high.
No, that's good to hear. Good for Zach and his son and the Sigourney team there. Obviously, last week we talked about them a little bit, so glad they're moving on and hope they do well at the tournament.
Yeah, they'll be. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday in Waterloo. So is their tournament. So good luck to them, and we'll probably see them this weekend and everything. So, anything else you want to talk about before we hit our topics? And I kind of previewed our topics before you got back on here, but
no, let's go ahead and get into the Indiana Fever game that happened on Saturday. We'll actually talk about what really took place, reality. Then we'll get into all the nonsense here later on in the discussion. But yep. I think they won by 35 points. They looked really good. A few key takeaways. They missed 7 shots early in the game, right around the rim or within 5 feet. So that was a little bit worrisome there in the beginning because you could tell they were the better team. But when you're watching it, as you know, in basketball, unless the shots fall, it doesn't matter if you're the better team or not. So they got that corrected. Caitlin Clark's going to play off the ball a little bit more this year. She's not going to have to run the entire offense every single possession. I think that's going to save her some energy. And there's a lot of good players on this team, so it gives them a chance to shine as well. So they're going to be more well-rounded on offense. Aaliyah Boston, she had 2 or 3 missed shots early in the game, and you could tell she was frustrated, and then she went off. I think it's going to be a big year for Aaliyah Boston. She's seeing the court really well, expecting big things out of her. Lexi Hull off the bench, 9 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals. If you can get that coming off the bench consistently, you're going to win 6 Women of the Year. Like I said, she was 25-1. When we spoke last week, I threw a little bet on her for that. So if she can give me 9-9 off the bench week in and week out, there's going to be a good chance to hit on that one. So the Fever looked really good. Again, first game of the year. Don't want to get too high on it, but that's about as good a victory as you can get for the first one.
And so are the Sky not as good? I mean, or was it per se a bad game for them? Or, I mean, obviously we don't know that yet, but.
Well, there's, when they played the Brazilian national team a couple days before Indiana did, and they didn't do as good as Indiana did versus Brazil. There were some people wondering if that was a sign of things to come. And it looks like Chicago, through at least one game, is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Don't forget last year ESPN and a bunch of people tried to tell us that Caitlin Clark wasn't the rookie of the year. Not only wasn't she the rookie of the year, some of those lists would have 2 or 3 players ahead of them for a large majority last season. So, Angel Reese gets a lot of hype, but her team got worse after they drafted her, and it looks like they might be even worse this year.
Yeah, and Haley Van Lith, just again another just fact of the game: 4 minutes and no points, right?
No, I think she
right. Or
she may have hit a
4 points.
I think she hit a 3-point shot.
I read that wrong.
Her first shot of the game, if I remember right. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, she got in the game a little bit, but it doesn't look like Chicago has much of an identity this year. Chindy Carter, who was on the team last year, who orchestrated a lot of their offense, she's playing in Mexico or somewhere outside the United States. She's been in and out of the league many times, trying to fight teammates. She's just a head case of a player, so that's why she can't stick around. She's got the talent to stick around. She's definitely a starter in the league, but she's one of those players, just like we see in the NFL and other leagues, that she just doesn't have the mentality to be a professional. So they have no identity on offense right now.
And they got a new coach this year, and just a lot of turnover, and sometimes it doesn't work, and it definitely kind of looks that way. But yeah, the Fever are looking the part right now. I know it's one game in, but when you're the better team and you do everything you're supposed to do, that's all you can control.
Yeah, looking at a few of the stats, the Fever beat Chicago basically in everything, 19 assists to 17. One surprising one is the Fever out-rebounded Chicago 46-42. And then a few others, the Fever had 13 steals compared to 5 with Chicago, 10 blocks compared to 7. And then probably the biggest one is Chicago had 17 turnovers. Indiana only had 10. The Fever had about a 3 or 4 minute stretch where they had 3 or 4 turnovers pretty quickly. But outside of that, their turnovers were down, which is good to see. Again, I think that comes with the entire offense not having to run through Caitlin this year like last season. Gives her a little bit of rest. She's got her strength up. Her handles look better. So the Fever should protect the basketball more this year, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything's real good. Everything looks good. And then there is whether – and we were talking about this today up at the Elks. Is it like wrestling where do they call each other, their friends, hey, let's just get the season off to a great start. Let's get everybody talking about us. And it's just like WWE. It's scripted. It's ready to go. And let's see how everybody reacts. And they got the reaction they wanted with Caitlin Clark fouling her and then upgrading to a flagrant. She goes after her, has to be held back. Now, again, I was at baseball all day Saturday. I did not watch it live. I saw highlights very soon after that I was able to see it. So I knew what was going on. It looked on the replay and everything as she fouled her, didn't want to give up the layup, which that happens in 85% of basketball games, and Angel Reese didn't like it.
Yeah, it was a fine foul. They upgraded it to a flagrant, whatever. I mean, it's I don't know if I would have, but it's kind of whatever. Angel had to react because that's what she has to do to stay in the spotlight. So that was her shining moment because they were getting their asses waxed up and down the court all day long. So that was her one moment to shine. She got it, made a big show of it. It appears one player got a lot better in the offseason and one went on a media tour and didn't get much better. Yeah,
and it was, and we talked about this last year and going into this year. Now, Caitlin Clark knew exactly what she was doing. She fouled her hard, and she literally turned and walked away. But her teammates, Aaliyah Boston, who did not do this last year, got in there. And, I think Caitlin Clark said, I'll pay your fine or whatever later in a press conference. Aaliyah Boston did not do that last year. So, one, either she understands that needs to be done now, or other teammates that they brought in or the coach said, you stand up for her and no questions asked, we'll figure it out later. Because Caitlin Clark knows and knew that when she fought, she just walked away because she knew what was going to happen. You can't tell me. She's very smart. She walked away. She can't get suspended. She can't get technical fouls, or the Fever in the league won't make as much money. She has to play in every game she can. And
yeah, Boston stepped right in, and she looked more aggressive in game one. I think that's a coaching, the coaches must have got to her during the offseason. She had a bunch of blocks in the game. She looks more aggressive, and you're right. She stepped right in, tried to put it into it. She got a technical, like you said. Caitlin said, I'll pay the fine for you. But you're right. That's going to be a story of the season. Her teammates are going to step in. And, yeah, Caitlin knew what she was doing with that foul. She saw when Angel Reese got up. She knew it was going to be a big deal. She walked away. It was the right thing to do. They gave a tech to Aaliyah. They gave a tech to Reese, so they were offsetting. But, it was a big moment, but it took away from the butt whooping that was, though.
Yeah, but Travis and Ross in the morning, who we've talked about, they were talking, and it's like Ross put up. It's exactly what the WNBA wants. Everybody's talking about it. Stephen A's talking about it. Every talk show is talking about it. Around the Horn is ending, but I guarantee it was talked about it today. The WNBA is moving forward in the conversation with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, quote unquote, rivalry. So, like you said, it's the only way Reese can stay in it, but she does understand it and knows how to play the game.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing. Like I said, that was her moment to shine there, to stay in the headlines, because Chicago doesn't look like they're going to be a very good team this year. But yeah, it's good for ratings, of course, because like you said, it's on all the talk shows, every single one of them. Nobody, the ESPN kind of got called out by a lot of people because they refused to put that Caitlin Clark had a triple-double in the opening game. They wouldn't put it as a headline, and we know why that is. ESPN's going to pander to their folks. They're going to do everything they can to hold the WNBA back, actually, instead of promote it forward. That's what ESPN does. I think everybody kind of understands that at this point. So, yeah, it's good for ratings, though. And they play again, I think, the 10th game of the season at Chicago, whenever that is. That's going to be, a highly anticipated game, and that'll be on the road in Chicago.
Yeah, I believe that's been moved to the United Center. And the thing with that game as well, there's going to be a lot of Eastern Iowa people get to that game in Chicago cheering on Caitlin Clark. So there's going to be a lot of Indiana Fever cheers in that arena. And I'm sure there is everywhere they go, but especially in Chicago.
The Indiana social media team's really gone with it. The Now You Know slogan that they've got for this year, the shirts that every game is a home game, meaning they're selling out the away arenas because people want to come watch Clark, not your team. That's going to eventually it's going to come back to backfire on the season. They're going to get beat on the road, and that's going to be a perfect post-game slogan for the opposing team to say, "Now you know," to throw it back in the Fever's face. That's going to happen at some point, but that's okay. They understand that. They're not going to win every road game, but I do like it because the Fever, they're not holding back now. They're not walking on eggshells. This is the Fever's league. That's what everybody wants to watch. Then you had the stuff that came out yesterday and into today about comments. There's no video of it, of course. It sounds like pandering to me. It sounds like playing the victim card after getting your butt kicked. 18,000 people in there, including fans, players, coaches, staff, and there's no video of nothing. So I think it's a classic case of, well, if we can't win the game, we can try to ruin their moment.
Yeah, it's one of those, and you would hope that, if something was said that's not supposed to be said, that the group of people around that person would say, hey, it was him, get him out of here, because there's no place for that. But that did not happen that we know of. I mean, I would assume it would be out now, but I think you're right. They're trying to make a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. And of course, unfortunately, ESPN is jumping right in.
Yeah, and it's too bad that the Fever and the WNBA are feeding into it. Again, the WNBA can't get out of its own way. They dropped the ball consistently over and over again last year. Nothing makes me believe that they're going to get it right this year. What the WNBA needs to do is they need to have someone come in and run the league for a year, 18 months, whatever it is. Take someone from these successful other leagues that actually make money. Take a Roger Goodell. Jerry Jones is probably getting too old, but take a rich NFL owner that gets it. Try to bring them in, give them a 1-year contract or an 18-month contract and say, you run the league. Whatever you say we do, we want to make money. What I would do is I'd bring in the 8, 10, 12 decision makers of the WNBA, whoever that is, the commissioner, advertising, whoever it is, and just go around the room one by one and say, do you want to make money or not? And if the answer is yes, they stay in the room. If the answer is yes, but we need to do this, there's the door, get out. Yep. You guys have had almost 30 years to make money and you haven't done it. Anything but yes, we want to make money is irrelevant.
The one thing I did hear is the commissioner did go on a talk show, podcast, whatever it was, and did acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is the number one draw, which they did not do last year. She at least did acknowledge that it is a Caitlin Clark league, and that's our ticket. So there was one step in the right direction for the WNBA there.
Yeah, no, you're right. I heard that too. So that's a good sign. There's some rumors that some people want the All-Star game moved out of Indianapolis. There's also a petition going around to get Dave Portnoy banned from Indiana or from WNBA games in general. So if they do want to move the All-Star game, what I would suggest is have the All-Star game wherever, Chicago, LA, wherever you want to have it. Have Caitlin Clark and the Fever stay in Indianapolis and play an exhibition game versus someone. Play at the exact same times and see what game gets better ratings, because I know what one will.
Dave Portnoy, you can love him or hate him, and there's sometimes I love him and sometimes I just shake my head at him. But him showing up in full Fever uniform is just awesome. I mean, it's just and he made a big bet on her and it hit, and he badmouths the WNBA and Angel Reese, and it's awesome.
Yeah, he's a character. He made a $25,000 bet, I think it was, for her to get a triple-double in game one. I think it was 13-1 odds. I almost made that bet, but I'm like, first game of the year, her teammates may not be ready for her passes. So I didn't make the bet. I can't claim that I did. Obviously, I wish I would have, threw 10 or 20 bucks on that now looking back at it. But Portnoy's a character. He's good for the WNBA. We need some more famous people going to the games, just like the NBA has had for a long time. And we're going to get into that here shortly. If one last thing, looking at the Fever, their next 3 games, they play tomorrow night at home versus Atlanta, 9.5-point favorites. That's going to be at 6 p.m. on Peacock. Then a couple days later, Thursday, they're at Atlanta. And then before the big game on Saturday versus New York. So they really need to win both these games versus Atlanta to get to 3-0. We'll see if that happens or not. And then Saturday's the big test at home versus the defending champs.
Yeah. I mean, it looks to be almost a perfect setup for them, and their big game Saturday, and they don't have to win that one, but they need to. It would be really beneficial for the WNBA if they can get off to a 9-1, 8-2 start.
Yeah, and I think that's possible, but for that to happen, they need to take care of business versus these 2 games versus Atlanta. So they're expected to beat them. They should. They looked really good in game 1. Let's see how they respond after a blowout victory. All the media stuff that's going on. Obviously, we know Caitlin can handle it and their teammates last year. Let's see how the new teammates handle all this extra media attention going on. And one last thing, I guess, on the game too is Sophie Cunningham didn't play. And DeWanna Bonner really didn't play that good either. So just imagine when those two get going, how good they can be. And that's one thing I talked about last week is they're so deep this year that not everybody has to play well every game.
Right. And they'll be able to load management. I'm going to use the NBA if they want to. Caitlin Clark doesn't have to play, the full game. She can sit an extra 2 minutes a game or 3 minutes a game, and that will take a huge effect come playoff time. Yeah,
she played 31 minutes the other night, and really she should have probably only played 27 or 28, but they put her in there for a few minutes at the end to get that triple-double. I'm fine with it. Everybody knew what it was. They put her back in the game to get that one rebound, call it stat padding. I'm fine with it. I think it's a great way to start the season off. Blowout victory. Clark gets a triple-double. DeWanda Bonner is in the third all-time on the scoring list. I think it was good for the crowd, good for the fans. It's a great way to start off the season. And if I was a coach, I would have put her back in, even though there is the risk of injury. I feel like that moment was worth it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the NBA now, where it is down to the Final Four. You have the Pacers and Knicks. So back to 1995 or 6, whatever it was, with Reggie Miller and the Knicks and John Starks and Spike Lee still there. And so that's the Eastern Conference. And then the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. So now Minneapolis is a big market, I mean, in the U.S., but Minnesota is not a household name. Then obviously Indiana and Oklahoma City are small markets in NBA standards, but the Knicks are the biggest market. And as you talked about with famous people, it is unbelievable who shows up for Knicks games when they're good.
Yeah, when the Knicks are good, the average person's not getting in there. They can't afford a ticket, even if you're sitting up in the nosebleeds. Probably, I know some people I listen to that live in New York that cover sports, and even they were like, "Yeah, I can't really afford to buy a ticket. That's how expensive these tickets are for the Knicks games." So it's one big market versus three smaller, as we've talked about before. We're going to have a new champion for I forget how many years in a row now. It's going to be whoever one of these four comes out of it, and the way the playoffs are gone, everybody's picking New York and Oklahoma City right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least one upset because these playoffs have been full of upsets. Everybody thought the Lakers were going to move on. They got bounced. Everybody thought that the Celtics were going to, definitely make it back. They had an injury, but it looked like they were going to lose that game to New York regardless before the injury. So these playoffs haven't really gone the way that most of the experts on TV thought they were going to go. And with everybody picking New York and Oklahoma City, I almost wonder if there's going to at least be one upset in these two in the two rounds there.
Yeah, Indianapolis and Indiana with Tyrese Haliburton, and that's why that's what I'm cheering for. I don't care about the Pacers that much, but I want Haliburton to do well. He has a chance. Again, he's going to be playing in New York City. Everybody's watching, all the famous people, and if he goes and does what he's done the first two rounds, he's just going to continue to cement his legacy and just rise up the rankings in the NBA. Instead of being the most overrated, he's going to switch into the most underrated player.
Yeah, he's having a great playoffs. It's been a great look for him and the Pacers. Them and the Fever kind of feeding off each other's. That kind of helps too. And for Haliburton, if he has a good series, whether they win it or not, I think he goes into next season as one of the 10 biggest faces of the league. I'm not saying the 10 best players necessarily, but the 10 faces you've got. And I'm just thinking out loud. You've got LeBron, Steph, Luka, Giannis, Wemby, obviously Tatum, Jalen Brunson, Ant-Man.
Yep. And
then probably Haliburton's in that 8 to 12 mix, right?
Right. Yeah.
As far as the faces of the league, because he's on a lot of the TV. A lot of people are talking about him, so he's definitely moving up. And then in 2 or 3 years, if LeBron and Steph are out of the league, maybe he is going to be one of those top 6, 7 faces of the league type guy.
Yeah, I mean, of the teams that are left, Oklahoma City's per se the best team, but there's no number one huge face. If they walk down the street, you don't know who that is, but Anthony Edwards is the face that's left. He wants to be the face of the league. He's doing everything he can to do that, and he's still playing, so there's another step in helping that. And then Haliburton obviously is it with Indianapolis, and then New York is more of we're the Knicks. It's especially going against Indiana. I mean, how many times are we going to see Reggie Miller and John Starks and Reggie Miller doing the choke sign to Spike Lee? I mean, how many times are we going to see that in the next week and a half?
Yeah, we'll see plenty of that. I'm looking forward to it. I see that the Pacers are 4.5-point dogs on the road. I would almost part of it. I didn't look though, but I want to look to see what the first quarter line is because I would like to take the Pacers at least in the first quarter maybe because I think maybe the Knicks could come out a little bit slow.
Yep.
getting back here, and it's been a long time. I would look to take the Pacers maybe in the first quarter or the first half or something like that. And then, SGA with Oklahoma City. I forgot to mention him a minute ago, but Anthony Edwards wants to be the face of the league. I'm sure you've seen the side-by-sides of him and Michael Jordan, the face. People wonder if he's, long-lost son of MJ potentially.
Right. And that's not a new thing. That is not just now. There has been rumors and rumblings of that for years.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looks like it. I mean, he's got the charisma of MJ, and this is going to be another big moment for him to see if he and Minnesota can take down Oklahoma City. But I'm kind of glad. I know you spoke about this last week. Everybody knows this. The NBA wants the Knicks to get to the finals because of ratings. But no matter what matchup we get in the finals, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. It's not all the teams that it's not the Lakers again. It's not the Celtics again. The Spurs had their time. They've been back down for a little bit. There was a while there where it seemed like every year they were in the finals for 15 years. Dallas won one, Denver won one. Just again, as you said, we're having another new team. Minnesota, the city that has all 4 pro franchises, has not won a title since 91 with the Twins and hasn't even been to the finals. I'm trying to think. I don't know if they've been to a championship series since then. The Vikings have not. The Twins have not. The Timberwolves never have been to the finals. This is as far as they've ever got. And then the Wild / North Stars. I can't answer for them for sure. I don't follow hockey as much. But I do know that Minnesota as a city has not won a championship since the 91 Twins over the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see them make it. We've got a lot of friends that are Vikings fans. You and I have talked about over the years on here. The Vikings are really one of the better run organizations in the NFL. They just can never find their quarterback or get over the hump with, when they had Culpepper and Moss, Randall Cunningham years, they had the Favre year in 2009. They've just have never been able to get over the hump. So it would be cool to see Minnesota and Anthony Edwards get to the championship this year.
Right. And unfortunately, that's the problem is they're well run, so they're never horrible. And so they can't ever get the top player. They're always, 8-8 or, 10-6 or even at worst, 6-10 where you're picking 10th. You don't get that top 5 pick where if you hit it right, he's a Hall of Famer or a 15-year starter because they're well run. And that's the problem with a well-run team that yet they aren't winning the championships either. They've had a few opportunities even this last year. Unbelievable record, but just couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, and speaking of well-run franchises, while we're on the NFL, we may as well start talking about Brock Purdy. Got paid the big contract. We wondered when it was going to happen. I think most of us thought it would get done before the season. And he got the 5-year deal, a bunch of money guaranteed. If you get on spotrac.com, you can look at all the different quarterback numbers. There's per year, there's total guarantees. So it's, he kind of fluctuates on what you're looking at, total cash per year. The one big thing that he did get in his contract was no trade clause. And those aren't handed out very often or agreed to very often, I should say. So that's big for him. If he has a couple bad years, maybe in 3 years they look to trade him, he can say no to a trade if they want to send him to Cleveland or the Jets or something. He can say no. But for Brock Purdy, it's an amazing payday for him. Well-deserved. He's earned it. Now the pressure. Now he's no longer Mr. Irrelevant, making no money. Now there's pressure on him now. So to get paid like a top 5 quarterback, he's going to have to perform like a top 5 to a top 10 quarterback year in and year out, getting paid this way.
Yeah, so $53 million a year, $181 million guaranteed, correct? I think that was his numbers?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so and then a 5-year deal. And, yeah, he got what he wants, and you hit the nail on the head. Now it's time. And the funniest stat was, so whatever he got paid his first year, he's going to make that in 6 days now. That's what's crazy about the money.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have to stay living in an apartment with roommates much longer. now that he signed this deal. Maybe he will, I guess, but he's got all the money in the world now coming his way. And like I said, he's, how he plays down, over the next 5 years, we'll see. But what he did with the first few seasons, getting them to a Super Bowl, I mean, to 2 NFC Championship games, he's earned that contract.
Yes, and if he could get to one more, I mean, everybody wants that second contract. Well, he got a big first one compared to most people. Now, he had a way lower contract, even the first one, because of where he was drafted. So he needed to make up a little bit from that. But if he could get one more contract, which will be just inflation and everything, quarterbacks are going to be $75 million. Aren't they going to be when he's up for another one?
Probably something like that. Do you know how old he is by chance? I forgot to look.
He didn't redshirt. So, I mean, 26-ish. Maybe not even that. 27 at most.
Let's see. Brock Purdy age, because it's a 5-year deal. So he's it shows he's 25 right now.
Okay.
So and if he plays really well, they'll probably re-up his deal in year 4.
Right.
They won't wait till year 5. So at 29 years old, give or take, or 30 at the latest, if he's playing well, he's going to get another big 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah. We were talking at the Elks about it a little bit. And so his in-laws, his wife's family are farmers in Northeast Iowa. So he's going to buy some farm ground. And then my hope is I hope he can buy a few players for Iowa State. That's my hope. Haliburton, buy a couple players for the basketball team, and Purdy, you can buy a couple football players for us.
I'm sure he could, and I'm sure he could help recruit some quarterbacks too to go to Iowa State. Him living out west, California, there's lots of great quarterbacks in that state at the high school level looking for places to go. And if there's some players out there that are on the fence between Iowa State or another program, maybe he can throw a little money their way or even meet with them and say, hey, go to Iowa State. So that's going to help Iowa State for sure. I'm sure he's going to give some of that money back to the program there at ISU.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, he's a great person. Everything I know, I've heard. I've been in the room with him before, but I've never sat and talked to him. But yeah, you like it when this stuff happens to people that we know, we believe that are great people. We all have people that turn out like that, but it's like, man, he was a jerk. I don't think Haliburton and Purdy are jerks. And they're both personable. They laugh, they smile. They always go back and show when Purdy, his senior day, he was running off the field and he just turned around and looked and you could just see the smile. He could have came back another year at Iowa State, actually. He decided to leave because he just felt his time was up. And that season did not end as well as everybody thought it should have. After the 2020 year where they won the Fiesta Bowl in 21, I believe they ended at 7-6 when they got beat by Clemson. But you could just see it in his face how happy he was. And speaking of that, where Iowa State is getting in a mix, Iowa State just got a commitment out of a quarterback out of Omaha. And less than a week later, now Alabama's coming in. And that happened with Purdy too. Iowa State was in kind of late on him. And then right before signing day or whatever, and signing days were way different then, Alabama came in and Purdy stayed solid. Now, I will say, the Alabama coach is different than Nick Saban. Alabama coach is from South Dakota and has some Midwest ties, and their offensive coordinator now is from Iowa. So there's some Midwest regional ties that make it a little bit – they're going to recruit the Midwest maybe a little bit more than they had just because they have some familiarity there. But it is different. Teams draft Iowa State players differently than they did 5 years ago. They recruit differently when they see Iowa State's in on a guy that maybe early. Hey, they know what they're doing. Matt Campbell does a good job. Hey, maybe we should take a look at this guy and we can offer him more. And, you can say what you want. You go to Iowa State and you can be really, really good. But if you play for Alabama or you go play for Georgia, you're probably going to play in the playoff. and you're going to have a chance to win the whole thing. And unfortunately, at Iowa State, that you can't say that that's a realistic opportunity.
Well, hopefully he sticks up Iowa State. Yeah, I mean, it makes it tough when you got a program like Alabama or any of the big dogs coming after you. It'd be tough to say no for anyone. I mean, we all understand why. The money, the prestige, all that type of stuff. If you go on to have a good career at Alabama or Georgia, you're for sure getting drafted high. But Iowa State, we've talked about under Campbell, compared to 20, 30, 40 years ago, they're putting a lot of players into the league. So, and this whole thing with Purdy being in the league now and getting paid, other players, you got Tyrese Haliburton in the NBA. It's good to have multiple players in different sports excelling because it does nothing but help the program.
No, I mean, the logo matters. And, I'm wearing a shirt right now. It has an Atomo logo. The Iowa State logo, when they walk into a recruiting place or just somebody walks in, they know Iowa State much better today than they did 20 years ago. That's what the South Dakota State guy that came to Drake basketball this year after McCollum went to Iowa, that's what he said. He goes, it's just different. You walk into a place, especially with Drake just beating Missouri and winning a game. When you walk in with the Drake logo, it's just more people know it than the South Dakota State. It's just a different level. And that's why you take a job like that is you can walk into more living rooms. And that's why, when Gene Chizik left Iowa State to go to Auburn, it's a no-brainer. You can walk into more living rooms. When Darren DeVries decided to go to Indiana instead of Iowa, Indiana basketball is different than Iowa basketball. And when you walk into a living room, it's different.
Yeah, the logo matters. And the more players you're putting in the pros, the more wins you get in college, all that stuff, it all adds up. Draft picks, we've talked about that, previewing the draft for all these years. I tell you, a sign of a good program, it's a no-brainer, of course, is they start to put more players in the NFL. And we've seen that with Iowa State under Matt Campbell. Obviously, we know Kirk Ferentz's long run of putting tons and tons and tons of players into the NFL. But both Iowa and Iowa State, NFL, NBA, WNBA, Iowa's in a really good spot right now with both the college programs, with certain sports, and then putting players into the pros.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately right now, you have to kind of pick and choose. And I know that's been some discussion at Iowa more than Iowa State. It is at Iowa State as well, but it's kind of been more in the front is you can't fund everything the way it needs to be funded. You have to pick and choose sports. It's just the reality of, like Iowa State doesn't even have baseball because they've chosen they weren't going to fund it. So why even have it? It's just the reality of college sports. And when you commit to something, if you got to be successful in it. You can't, and that's why basketball was needed a change, and it looks like it's going the right way. I think they got the right guy, but you have to win at the programs you're funding, or it doesn't work.
Yeah, we spoke about Iowa basketball. The women were outdrawing the men, rightfully so. They've had a better run lately. This year, at least early on, I know you and Zach have talked about it. I think early on, the men's program is going to be well supported. Fans are going to be excited. They're going to be in the stands because you kind of have to pick and choose. A lot of people can't go to both the men's and the women's game during the week. People have jobs, kids, schedules, money, all that type of stuff. So you have to pick and choose what one you're going to support. And this is kind of a new era officially now for the women's side and for the men's side. So, it's going to be who comes out of the gate hotter, who stays consistent. If they both do, I think they both can have good seasons. It's just, what's the fan attendance going to be like, night in and night out there at Carver Hawkeye?
Well, and here's a story that came out this evening. Hawkeye women's basketball, our favorite player, Sydney Falter, graduate assistant. So they're keeping her around the program. So that's a great thing for Iowa. And she was a great Hawkeye, and she'll continue working with the Hawkeye basketball program. And I definitely could see her down the road being a coach and being the Iowa women's coach. I could see that.
Yeah, I was happy to see that. Besides Caitlin Clark, that's my favorite female Hawkeye player of all time. The way she stepped in last year when Molly Davis got hurt and then just excelled from there. So good for her coming in, staying with the program. Like you said, maybe someday she'll become a head coach or maybe an assistant head coach down the line. that's just you're happy to see that for her. And yeah, like I said, things are really positive right now for both Iowa and Iowa State at all levels, it seems like.
Yep. And then here's our last topic, PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler wins. Made it interesting, but then he pulled it out and kind of put his foot on the gas on the back nine on Sunday. 1 year ago, he was arrested. He's a felon. He's a delinquent. And now he had a kid, and now he won it. I think I showed it to Cody when we were at the Elks earlier. It's crazy what a year will be. Delinquent and a felon, and now a major champion and a father, and on top of the world. But it's just crazy to think what could have been last year if he doesn't spend Friday morning or Thursday morning, whatever day it was, in jail.
Yeah, it was a great redemption for him. What he did on those last 5 holes Saturday was amazing. I think he went 5 under the last 5, or maybe it was 4. I think he had an eagle in there. I'd have to go back and look. But just to do that on those last 5 holes is just about unheard of at that course. And then going into Sunday, eventually he ran away with it. I mean, second place was 5 strokes behind, I think it was, Bryson.
It was tied, or he only had a 1-shot lead a couple different times.
Yeah, for a while it was. And then everybody else kind of faded down the stretch. He didn't. When he's on right now, he's the most consistent player out there. And yeah, like you mentioned, what could have been last year, because he kind of got in that little incident, ended up not being a big deal at all. It was more of a headline than an actual big deal in reality. So what could have been? He's got 3 majors now. I mean, what would you set his over? We talked about this when Rory won the Masters. What would you set his over under major at moving forward at this point?
So he's only 27?
27 or 28.
He looks way older than he is. I mean, he's balding, and I mean, just he does. Of course, barring injury, or whatever happens to people. I mean, I'm going to say 10. I mean, he looks unstoppable. But I would have said that with Rory, and I would have probably said that with Spieth, and obviously it didn't happen.
Yeah, so he's at 3 now. I would put his over under at probably 6.5 or 7.5, realistically. Yeah. Now, he looks like he's going to go on a run and he's unstoppable, but we've seen this before, just like you said, with Rory, with Spieth. We've seen this with golfers. Brooks has 5, right? And he's fallen off the face of the earth. So golf's one of those sports that it can change in a hurry. I mean, if he plays 15 more years at a high level, and wins a major every other year, that obviously would put him at about that 10 mark that you're talking about. But he looks unstoppable right now. But as we know in golf, an individual sport, you can get in your own head. Things can change in a hurry. And we've seen that with countless players over the years.
Yeah, it is amazing. But yet, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he wins the next one.
Next one's the U.S. Open, and that's always on Father's Day weekend, typically, right?
Yes. Yep.
And that one's going to be at Oakmont. We spoke about this a week or two ago. Oakmont's arguably the toughest course in America as far as the U.S. Open. Dustin Johnson won his first major there. That was one of my favorites because I always wanted him to get a major victory, and he did at Oakmont. That'll be a true test. I looked at the odds. Obviously, Scottie's the favorite, as he should be. Rory's the second favorite. I honestly think Bryson should be the number 2 favorite as far as the betting odds. He won the U.S. Open last year. And if you look how he's done in the majors, I think his last 8 or 9, he's really consistent. I think he has one missed cut in there, but otherwise a bunch of top 5s and top 10s. So in my opinion, I would make Bryson the second favorite over Rory at the U.S. Open.
Is it some of it is just Bryson doesn't see the competition / we just don't see him like we do Rory?
That could be. And for Bryson, the biggest thing with him, the driving, the short game, and the putting is all there. It's his irons. His irons are not very good for as good a player as he is, which is shocking. Like Scottie's one of the best iron players out there right now, and Bryson feels like one of the worst. I mean, I don't know if he actually is, but it feels that way when you're watching him compared to the rest of his game. So if Bryson could just get his irons figured out, there's no reason he can't win one of the 2 remaining majors the rest of the year. And you kind of wonder that issue, does it have to do with the same length clubs that he's going with?
Well, they're all 3D printed. They're just different than everybody else's.
they're different, and hey, different can work sometimes.
Mhm.
He's won major, so he's proven that it can work.
He's got 2 U.S. Opens already, so he can obviously win at those setups of golf course.
Mhm.
Every golf course is different. But Shinnecock, did he win one at Shinnecock? No.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Brooks won that. I think Bryson won his at Wingfoot, also in New York, but a different place. But I believe that's one of the tougher golf courses as well. Shinnecock, Wingfoot, and Oakmont, kind of all in that northeast corner, are all very, very difficult.
Yeah, they definitely are. And, speaking of our pool that we do, it's almost getting to a point, Scottie wins another one. Are we going to have to maybe think about making everybody eligible to be drafted but Scottie? So nobody can get Scottie, but everybody else, kind of like
Right.
Tiger was way back in the day. Now, Scottie's not to that point yet, but if Scottie rattles off another major or something, that may be something that we have to consider next year.
Yeah, we didn't even need to have a draft this week. This one, Zach picked him first, and he should have. I mean, if I'd had the number one pick, I had the number 2 pick, and I got Rory, and it wasn't good. But if I was the number 1 pick, I would have picked Scottie too. Who had him in the Masters?
Al did, because I took Rory number 1. Al took Scottie number 2.
Yeah, so I mean, both majors this year, the person that won it was drafted number 1. So
right, it's all luck of the draw. When I took that video of doing it, right there when the clock struck 30 after, and it was Sean, the Tassel's friend that's joined our group. He's like, "Oh, Zach's going to get a top 3 pick," And right when I clicked it, I see number 1 Zach. I'm like, yeah, well that figures. Luck of the Z, as Tassel says.
Oh yeah, it is. So, all right. Anything else, Trev? Went just about an hour here, not quite, but that's.
No, I think that's it. The Fever got a few games coming up, starting tomorrow, and I think what we'll do when we do this every week, we'll take a look at their schedule, 2 or 3 games at a time, just to see who their upcoming opponents are. But it's fun. WNBA is underway. NBA playoffs are getting ready to start up, and there's plenty of players and teams to watch for both Iowa and Iowa State fans.
Yeah, and that's what's fun to watch. And I do want to say that the Twins actually had won 13 games in a row until yesterday. They got beat yesterday, but 13 games in a row is quite a feat. And they'd went like 67 innings in a row without giving up a run. So the Twins are playing better baseball after their horrific start. If they just wouldn't have started so bad, they still weren't even in the lead in their division. How about that? Win 13 in a row and you're still like 4 games back.
Yeah, 13 in a row is that's incredible in baseball. And then I heard that I haven't been paying attention, but I heard the Royals went on a really good run too, but they didn't make up any ground on the Twins because the Twins won 13 in a row. So that's incredible. I mean, our Rockies might be lucky to win 13 games all year.
They still have 7, or have they got to 8 yet?
I don't even know. I looked a week ago, and they're going to be one of the worst teams of all time. But the fans are still going to the games.
That's what's crazy is they still like 38,000 people still go.
We've got a show coming up in a few weeks, second week of June, I think it is. And I told some of my coworkers if they want to take customers out before or after dinner, I said you can get in for $5 or $10. They've got a big bar area in the outfield that you can buy the cheapest ticket possible and just go hang out there, enjoy the views of the mountains over the stadium. And the Rockies are so terrible, you're not forced to sit there and actually watch the game if you don't want to.
Yeah, just the experience and have a few drinks. And nope, that's good. All right, Trev, we'll talk to you later, and we'll see you this weekend.
Yep, we'll see you later this week. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.